Hey everybody, it's Justin, your guide into the other side. Today I want to talk about Kodas. Whether you have one or not, we're just gonna go break down, what are they, where are they best applied, especially when it comes to farming, fighting, and enchanting in Season 1 of Legends of the Mara. So right off the bat, we're just gonna jump right over to the gaming blog and just kind of read the sentence verbatim. They have an advantage because Kodas skip the nesting process, right? They're already game ready for Legends of the Mara. And, if you actually scroll up, we can actually see the nesting process for vessels. The majority of players will, probably just have vessels. They're probably going to nest it and, to get their Maras. And the Maras are essential because, you can place them in your worker slots to do whatever you want, whether that's farming, fighting, or enchanting. But Kodas essentially can skip that process, and that'll be powerful in a number of ways, and we'll go over that in just a second. But at the end of the day, they have that time advantage, and they're just always going to be more powerful than Koda Maras as well. So, whether you're farming or fighting or enchanting, they're going to be powerful, but let's just kind of break it down, one by one. So farming, right off the bat, farming is going to be important because, sediment fragment supply is capped and refreshes each season, right? So again, this is going to put a lot of pressure on farmers to farm as fast as they can before the supply becomes depleted. And, right off the bat, if you have a Koda, you can start farming these sediment fragments right away. And that's going to provide a lot of benefit because you're going to need these fragments to evolve your Maras into Koda Maras. So, Kodas aren't necessarily inexpensive, so you might have a couple of vessels on the side to do other things like fight or farm at the same time. So evolving your Koda Maras is going to be important. Getting those sediment catalysts are going to, the sediment fragments as well as a catalyst will be important for that. So, if you have a Koda and you kind of want to get the fragments, then by all means, you can use it in that way to have that type of impact. So if we move on to fighting, right, what's the point of having a Koda with regards to fighting, right? And I would say it's probably with regards to damage output, right? In maximizing your ability to synergize your Oda team abilities and buffs, etc., etc. And Yuga has a lot of emphasis on Koda evolution, seasonal catalysts and leaderboard rewards. And I think when you apply your Koda, especially if it has a weapon, your damage is going to be significantly more than just if you have like a Koda Mara team or if you have a Mara team. And again, weapons will also have interesting damage effects or hidden powers, right? So it's going to be important to use discernment to determine, whether your Koda has a weapon, to use that towards fighting, or if you want to use that towards something else like enchanting or farming. So again, why fight in the first place? And I would say the overarching, if you want to participate in like the fighting loop, that will allow you to get shattered loot drops, as well as end of season leaderboard rewards if you rank on the leaderboard. So again, that's just how I interpret the verbiage. By all means, it could be different. But again, I would say with regards to like Koda Mara evolution, I think there's a lot of strong signs and implications that point that the leaderboard rewards are seasonal catalysts, because they talk about the rewards being seasonal and limited. And again, with regards to Mara evolution, the catalyst is required, whereas the sediment fragment is optional. So it's going to be important to keep an eye on how they disperse those. So again, they haven't told us what the pool of rewards will be, outside of confirming that unearthed artifacts, holy guacamole, are a leaderboard reward. So unearthed artifacts are going to be interesting too, mainly because they can be, the spellbook, the Koda pickaxe, or the jar of Koda farts. But again, if you are looking at end of season leaderboard rewards or shattered, loot drops, then by all means, a weapon Koda will be really useful to, kind of get that. So if we move on to the enchanter part of, whether you should use a Koda to enchant your deed, you may have a Koda, and you might say, hey, what if I'm farming sediment fragments and I have a lot more vessels than I have Kodas, right? You might be on a tier 4, tier 5, maybe have an excess of Kodas, maybe you have all farmers or all fighters. If you have a Koda, as an enchanter, it's going to be more powerful than if you just use enchanters, right? And again, enchanters boost the skills of your farmers and hunters at your camp at the same time. So, you know, that really will probably buff your entire team, whether you are farming or fighting. And I think enchanters will be useful for those who have specialized their deeds already. But they are really powerful if you are splitting up your deed to do both at the same time. So again, you're gonna need to buff wisely. Again, I don't necessarily know how these buffs are gonna play out overall. Maybe they'll have some variance with regards to the kinds of buffs we'll be able to throw down. But again, seems like we'll be able to stack buffs or stack enchanters on deeds, and this will be critical to sediment harvest or seasonal leaderboard ranking awards. So again, Koda as enchanters are fulfill a more auxiliary role. So again, you'll just have to make your own judgments there. And one thing that I do want to point out too is that if you are looking at the kind of weapon that your Koda enchanter has, or some are obviously used for fighting, like this Wavebreaker or this Guardian Hand, but some are a little bit more ambiguous. It's like, this has a Staff of Confessing. Is that more conducive to enchanting, or is that more conducive to like fighting? And again, it's going to be important to track these things as we go into season 1 of Legends of the Mara, and kind of figure out where the buffs are, what kind of impact Kodas will have, especially as it regards to price, because by all means they're not inexpensive. It is like the floor price for a weapon Koda is 4.89 ETH, and then the floor price for regular Kodas is 3.44. So it's kind of hard to weigh the advantages versus the cost of having a Koda versus just having a Mara or a Koda Mara. So again, if you liked anything in this video, if you found anything interesting, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. It always helps me create more content. I hope you have a greater understanding of what Kodas can be used for and their impacts. But again, you can always find me on Twitter. You can find me on Discord. You can always shoot me a DM. But otherwise, I'm going to sign off. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.